Ready for another deep dive? Let's go. This time, we're digging deep into the world of houseplants. We've got a listener who's ready to trade their Plant Mortis membership for, well, a thriving indoor jungle, right? And they shared some seriously eye-opening advice from, let me see, name from source video. This is good stuff. Get this. One of the biggest reasons our houseplants might be struggling is, get this, the pots.
That's true.
The pots. We're talking pot size.
Yeah, those pots, it makes a world of difference.
Who knew? Well, I guess we all kind of knew, but like,
You know, it's funny, we get so caught up looking at the leaves, how full and lush they are,
right.
that we totally forget about what's going on beneath the surface. Out of sight, out of mind, as they say.
It's so true. And Name from Source Video had a really striking way of putting it. He said it's like the plant's roots are screaming.
They are. They're screaming for more space.
Screaming, but we're too busy admiring the leaves to hear them.
Exactly. And those roots, they're the plant's lifeline. Literally. They're how they absorb all the good stuff, the nutrients, the water, everything.
It's like expecting, I don't know, a redwood to thrive in a thimble.
Yeah. Or asking a marathon runner to train in a closet.
Totally. And speaking of cramped quarters, Name from Source Video actually shows us just how root-bound his own Monstera deliciosa was fresh from the garden center.
Oh, yeah. That's super common. Most garden centers use those small pots.
Really? Why is that?
Easier for shipping, easier for storage, you know.
Huh. Makes sense, but still. He was describing trying to free those roots, and it sounded like a tangled mess, like a root explosion in there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it can get pretty wild.
So what's the answer? Should we all be running out to buy giant pots for all our plant babies?
Hold your horses. It's not about going big or going home. It's about finding that just right pot.
Goldilocks pot.
Exactly. Not too big, not too small.
Right.
You want to give those roots room to breathe, room to grow.
So it's like finding that Goldilocks pot. Right. Not too big, not too small.
Exactly.
But Name from Source Video doesn't just stop at the pot. He's got a lot to say about soil, too.
Of course. Soil is just as important, wouldn't you say? It's like the foundation of a house. You need a good, solid base for everything else to work, right?
Absolutely. That's a great analogy. So what are we looking for in a good potting soil? Like, what should we be thinking about?
Well, different plants have different needs, just like people.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, some plants, they like their soil light and airy. Others prefer it a little denser, something that holds moisture a bit better.
So I guess, grabbing any old bag of all-purpose potting mix isn't going to cut it.
You got it. It's worth, taking the time to get to know your plants a bit, figure out what makes them happy.
I like that. So give us an example. What kind of soil does Name from Source Video recommend?
Well, he uses, let me see, a mix of peat moss, perlite, and then he adds some vermicast as well for his Monstera deliciosa.
Peat moss, perlite, vermicast. Okay, break that down for me. What do those ingredients actually do?
Sure. So peat moss, that's really good for holding on to moisture. And then perlite, that helps with drainage and aeration. You don't want those roots to drown.
Right.
And then the vermicast, that's like adding a boost of nutrients. It's like giving your plant a gourmet meal.
Instead of just takeout.
Uh-huh, exactly.
So we're like plant chefs now, whipping up the perfect soil blend.
That's a great way to put it. And just like cooking, it might take a little experimenting to find what works best, right?
That's a good point. This is really making me rethink how I've been approaching this whole plant parenting thing.
Yeah.
It's not just about watering them and hoping for the best, right? There's so much more to it.
For sure.
We need to understand what's going on beneath the surface with those roots.
You got it.
Yeah, it's like we've had these blinders on this whole time, just totally missing the bigger picture.
It's easy to do, right? We focus on what we see above the soil.
Exactly. But thanks to Name from Source Video and his root revelations, we're seeing the light, or should I say the roots.
Exactly.
And you know what I find really interesting?
What's that?
Once you start paying attention to the roots, it's like this whole other world opens up. You start noticing all these things you might have missed before.
100%. It's like, remember we talked about those subtle cries for help from our plants?
Yeah.
When you really get this whole root thing, you start to recognize those signs way earlier. Like you become a better plant detective.
Ooh, I like that. A plant detective. So what kind of clues should we be on the lookout for, detective?
Well, let's say, you've repotted your Monstera deliciosa.
All right.
Got it in a nice big pot, perfect soil blend, the works.
Okay.
But you notice the leaves are still kind of droopy, not perky.
Uh-oh.
It might be that those roots, they haven't quite settled in yet. They need time to adjust to start absorbing water properly.
Interesting. So what do? Give it more water?
Not so fast. You got to be careful because overwatering, especially in this situation,
Yeah.
that can do more harm than good.
Oh, right, right.
Instead of just grabbing the watering can, what you want to do, check the soil moisture. Stick your finger in there, a couple inches down.
Like you're testing a cake.
Haha. Yeah, exactly. If it feels dry a couple inches down, then yeah, give it a good drink. But if it's still damp, hold back.
Man, who knew there was so much to this? I feel like I've learned so much today about, like, the secret language of plants.
Me too.
And you know what? I bet this is just the beginning. There's going to be so much more to discover about these amazing, like, silent roommates of ours.
Oh, absolutely. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
The world of plants, it's full of surprises.
That's the best part. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this root-tastic deep dive.
I like that. Root-tastic.
So if you're ready to, like, seriously level up your plant parenting game, my biggest takeaway, pay attention to those roots. They hold the key. Find them the right size pots. Give them some good eats with the right soil blend. And just, keep an eye out for their subtle cues. It's all about building that relationship.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Now go forth and grow those gorgeous green companions.